What if building wealth wasn't about some secret map you had to find, but more about drawing your own blueprint? We spend so much time chasing get-rich-quick ideas, but the people who are truly wealthy, they don't just find wealth, they design it. And today, we're going to dive into that very design, the architecture of affluence, from the psychology all the way to the economics. So what's the deal? Is it all just a roll of the dice? Or is there actually a system behind it all? I mean, those stories of overnight success are exciting for sure, but they're basically like lottery tickets. They're the exception. We're gonna look at the rule, the actual mechanics that consistently build wealth, way beyond the splashy headlines.
And we're going to break this down by looking at both the economics and the psychology. So let's be clear, this isn't about motivational quotes or the hot stock tip of the week. Nope. This is a real, analytical look at the structures, both inside your own head and out in the real world, that actually help create lasting affluence.
All right, first up, let's tackle a phrase we hear constantly, the rich mindset. People throw this term around like it's some kind of magic spell you can cast. But what does it actually mean? Like in real, tangible, psychological terms? Well, it turns out that research points to something way more specific than just thinking positive. It's a concept called locus of control. And specifically, people who build wealth tend to have a very, very high internal locus of control. And understanding what that means, well, that's the first real key to this whole thing. Okay, so what in the world is a locus of control? Basically, it all boils down to one question. Who's in the driver's seat of your life? Is it you? Or is it fate, luck, or other people? And believe me, where you land on that one belief changes everything about your financial behavior. And check this out, it lays out the difference perfectly. If you've got an internal locus of control, you fundamentally believe your actions drive your success. You're proactive, you make things happen. On the flip side, with an external locus, life is just something that happens to you. This psychological foundation, man, it is absolutely crucial for everything else we're going to talk about. Okay, so you've got this I'm in charge mindset. Great. But how does that actually translate into, money? This is where the mind meets the market. Because it's not just about earning a paycheck, it's about the huge fundamental difference between income and capital growth. This right here might be one of the biggest misunderstandings out there. We see someone with a huge salary and we think, wow, they're rich. But a big paycheck usually just funds a bigger lifestyle, nicer cars, a bigger house. Real fortunes aren't built on paychecks. They're built by capital growth. It's about owning things that make money for you. All right, let's put some real numbers to this to see what I mean. Let's take a very healthy salary here in the US, $250,000 a year. For most of us, that sounds like the definition of rich, right? But just watch what happens when we compare that to an asset over time. Now look what happens over just 10 years. That $250,000 salary with a typical 3% annual raise grows to about $286,000. It's a nice bump, but an asset of that same initial amount, growing at an average of 7%, it balloons to nearly $500,000. I mean, look at that difference. That gap is the whole story. One is adding a little bit each year. The other is multiplying itself. That is the engine. So we have the mindset, that internal locus of control, and we have the engine, capital growth. Now it's time to connect them. Because let's be honest, it's one thing to know about this powerful engine, but it's another thing entirely to have the psychological discipline to actually build it and keep it running. And here's where it all clicks together. If you fundamentally believe that your actions determine your outcomes, you're just way more likely to do the disciplined, long-term stuff you need to do to build up capital. Saving and investing stop feeling like a sacrifice, and they start feeling like you're literally building your own future, brick by brick. This belief system creates this amazing, powerful feedback loop, the capital accumulation cycle. You save consistently, which lets you invest. Your investments compound and grow. And then, and this is the secret sauce, you reinvest those returns, which makes the entire cycle spin faster and faster and faster. It's an engine that literally fuels itself. This table just makes it crystal clear. Look at the high earner, making twice as much money, but their focus is on their lifestyle, so they're only putting away 10%. Now, look at the wealth builder. Lower income, but a totally different focus, buying assets. By saving 40%, they're actually putting double the amount of capital to work every single year. You can imagine where they both end up after a decade. It's not even close.
But here's the thing. This personal architecture isn't built in a vacuum. You can have the best blueprint in the world, but you still have to build on the land you're given. So now, let's zoom out and take a look at that landscape, the broader economic environment.
Yeah, everything we've been discussing has to be built on top of this much larger economic landscape. And the rules of that landscape, the economic conditions, government policies, all that stuff, they basically determine what kind of structures are even possible to build in the first place.
And these are just some of the big forces that shape that landscape. I mean, think about it. Tax laws can reward you or penalize you. Interest rates change how expensive it is to build anything. A truly skilled wealth builder doesn't just manage their own little project. They understand the rules of the whole game, and they adapt their strategy to win.
And that brings us right back to the core idea of this whole explainer. There isn't a simple one-size-fits-all blueprint for getting wealthy. It's so much more like architecture. You've got these foundational principles, but you absolutely have to adapt your design to the specific terrain and climate you find yourself in.
So, to wrap it all up, the architecture of affluence really rests on these 4 essential pillars. It all starts with that psychological foundation of believing you're in charge. That drives you to prioritize capital growth over just a high income. You put that into action with that powerful accumulation cycle. And you do all of it while skillfully navigating the world around you.
And that leaves us with a really big question for the future. I mean, the environment is always changing. New tech, shifting policies, global disruptions. So when you look at these 4 pillars, which ones do you think are timeless, like the laws of physics? And which parts of this architecture are going to need to be completely redesigned for the world of tomorrow? The answer to that, well, that's what will determine who builds the fortunes of the next generation. Thanks for watching.